with a Business is brought to you by Audible.com.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to Married with a Business. I'm Craig.
And I'm Allison.
And we're Married with a Business. We're here to share tips, tricks, stories, and whatever about what it's like to own a company together as a married couple and to also, own, operate a family, be a married couple together.
And we're doing it in a new year. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. It's 2025, first episode of the year, and glad people are listening. Hope everybody had a great New Year. 2024, interesting year.
It was an interesting year, but we're starting 2025 is fresh. Just like every Monday is fresh, every morning is fresh. It's a fresh year.
Yeah.
So what have you guys been up to?
Yeah, it was nice to have a couple of days off for the end of the year kind of break, that Christmas to New Year's break. We close the business for the most part. We have a couple employees that still work, but we take that week off. A lot of our managers and key people take that week off, just spend time with their families to relax and kind of get themselves reset and re-energized for the new year.
Which would have been great, except I was sick the whole time.
You were sick the whole time, which was very upsetting.
It's fine.
Yes.
Next year's, there'll be another break next year.
There'll be another break next year. So, but I think that we said 2024 was interesting, and I think it was. 2024 or 2025 was going to be great. I mean, we go into it very energized, very positive about it. But Allison, for 2024, it was, I'm going to say that for you, it was the year of the woman.
Yeah, it was very conference heavy, and I think 2025 is going to be executing a lot of things that I learned and we talked about at these things in 2024.
So the one good byproduct of doing this podcast and you networking so much, not only like locally for our business, but industry wide, is that it's given us a little bit of an avenue to have some speaking opportunities. And so this year we got asked to speak in a conference. I know we talked about it earlier in the year, a construction conference. And then you got asked to speak at the Women in Construction Conference, which is a big conference. It's not just small remodelers and home builders and general contractors. It's also big commercial and giant companies. You got asked to speak at that conference in September.
Yeah, so I really want to thank Caroline Broderick, the editor of Custom Builder, and Erica Moss, the director of content for Pro Remodeler, for including me in the list of the amazing and exceptional female speakers at this conference in Arizona. It's the Women in Residential and Commercial Construction Conference, and there were women from all over the country in residential remodeling, residential building, commercial building, and interior and design. It was awesome. This annual conference, we gather over 300 women in those it's 3 days of educational things. We talk about all sorts of things. We talk about business. We talk about personal transformation. There's AIA accredited sessions and different educational tracks and speakers. And it was just awesome to be included. So I just want to give them a shout out for finding me and thinking I have something worthwhile to share with everybody. And I know
for you, I think going into it, one of the things that you were sort of I'll use the word nervous. Not that you were nervous about speaking or doing it. I think one of the things that you were nervous about was in our industry, especially when you pull in the commercial side of our industry, building like big giant skyscrapers and multi-unit, apartment buildings, and even in the residential side on these like giant, builders who do 300 houses in a neighborhood. Our company's very small compared to all those companies. And I think that was one thing that for you kind of had to overcome, which was the size of our company and you talking to these people who run these ginormous companies.
Yeah. So because what do I know? What do I have to share? And there was one of the keynote speakers is a woman that I have known for years from the Massachusetts area. Very similar tracks in life. She took over her dad's company, but they do bigger projects in one project than we do in a year. And she was sitting in my thing. And one of the panels was about imposter syndrome, and it was so popular. They did 2 sessions about it. Madison Farrell talked about culture and internal communication. She's from Great Day Home Improvements, and she kind of facilitated this imposter syndrome roundtable discussion. And what was amazing and interesting is that the women at that table are so powerful and smart and well-versed in what they do in the industry. And yet we were all able to talk about feeling like an imposter in our own shoes. And what's different about conferences for women is these are topics that don't come up in both gender conferences or even conferences that men run.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the conference itself. So the Women in Construction Conference, talk about the industry in general and women in the construction industry. Because I think for a lot of people and most people, like we still see it now. And when you own our business, it's your family business. You worked in the field. You've done almost every role in the business. But people still think it's my business. People still like, oh, so your wife works for your company. And so talk a little bit about, and specifically in the construction industry, why a conference like this is important and women in our industry.
Yeah. And so as part of the conference, my 2020 year of conferences, I did 2 conferences for women in construction and 1 just for women in business in general. And as of 2023, only 47% of the workforce in the United States is made up of women. And when you get into industries that are typically male-dominated, construction, women only make up 10%, even as through 2022.
10%. So like 1 in 10 people in the construction industry. And this isn't just like people swinging hammers.
This includes anybody. This includes business owners, bookkeepers, designers, carpenters, project managers. So only 10% of our entire industry is made up of women. And I would imagine that percentage is reflective of most historically male-dominated industries. And so why conferences that speak to women in general are important is because we're still finding our feet. I think conferences for everybody is important, no matter whether you're a man or woman. And we got very different things, but I get very different things out of the Pinnacle experience, which has everybody, and the Women in Construction Conference or the South Shore Women's Business Conference, because they speak to our lives a little bit differently.
Yeah, and I think that, like it's 70 years of women moving forward in just working in general. We think about in the 50s and the wife was still at home, and that's kind of like, you had the one person working. Now we're in a 2-family, 2 adult working industries or, households now. And so it's interesting to see, like, nationwide, 47% of the workforce is women, but only like not even 11% is women in our industry.
And the growth isn't coming quickly. So let's put this into perspective. Based from the State of Women in Construction report from Labor Finders, when I started in our company in 2002, 9% of the industry was women. So in the last 20 years, we've only raised it 1%. And 9% was up from 1990, which was 7%.
So going back to the conference itself and the goals of what they tried to do there, what did you feel like it was like being at a conference that was, because you've gone to a lot of industry-related conferences. You've gone to a lot of construction conferences. What did it feel like to go to an industry-related conference that was all women?
It was interesting because you do get that, like, initially that woman vibe, like everyone doesn't know where to go or talk to. And you can definitely tell the people who are great networkers and great at making other people feel comfortable.
And I think that, like, you having gone to, you've been going to construction conferences, different ones, since you were 18 years old, 17 years old. And you were always like, no, I'll say it this way. You were always kind of like a spectacle at those things, right? Because you were a 5'2" female in a male-dominated industry. You would walk into like JLC Live in Providence, Rhode Island, and you would be one of only, a handful of women in that room. And so now, you're in a room with all women who work in our industry.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's a different feeling when you go into those rooms. It feels like a sense of collaboration. But I feel like it often takes a little longer to get people to know each other. It takes a little bit, you got to get the ball rolling. And what I think is interesting is this is the first like large scale conference I've ever been to. In the ballroom, everybody went around and did their intro, their name, rank, serial number. So, which is fabulous because after we broke out, you could then you knew something about somebody. There were people who were definitely stood out to you in their introductions. And again, it's a different feeling. It's a sense of collaboration. It's a sense of everyone for those 3 days is in there to try and help you and collaborate. And I was able to talk about things that we have coming down the pipeline, and women from other parts of the country, like, well, just call me. Like, when you hire this person, just have them call me. Those are just different feelings and different offers than I'm used to getting at these kind of conferences.
So talk a little bit about what you did for the conference. Talk a little bit about your presentation, what you kind of talked about, and what sort of how you felt about in the room when you were doing that.
So I'm a very tactical person. What everybody needs when they go to a conference or a workshop or a mastermind is different. I like to come out with very tangible action items. And so I was asked to talk about systems, and not in terms of computer systems, but how you do things. So I have a workshop that we've done internally that kind of talks about how we evaluate what we're doing and how we build new systems and change our systems and kind of look at the why. So you could come out of my workshop with, 2 or 3 or 7 very tangible take-homes. And one of the things that was both nerve-wracking and really exciting for me was this woman from FH Perry Builders here in Massachusetts who I've always wanted to be her when I grow up. She's sitting at my conference and she's got her phone out and she's taking pictures and she's taking notes. And I'm like, oh, she has all of her stuff together. What could I possibly give? And that was one of the things we talked about before going. Like, that was one of my nervous things. And afterwards, just the sense of we all are looking for something different. And at every time in our phase of our business, we need something different from a conference. And she was like, I have so many great ideas based off of what you had to share. So I always say, if you come out of something with one good idea or one good action item, it was worth your time.
Yeah. So the conference was great. You also, like, while you guys were there were also some sort of like, you got to do some bonding and rapport outside of just like the conferences as well. There was there were evening events where you guys got together. Talk about the one, you guys made margaritas or something?
I'm not a joiner, and I thought I was going to be going in to like just watch, and I got thrown into a group, and they broke us up. There was icebreakers, right? It was teamwork and team building things with people you don't know. And they broke us up into groups, and I think we had a half an hour, and we had to create 2 different types of margaritas. We were in Arizona, so one was like spicy and one was regular. We had to create a label for our margarita mix and a jingle. And it was the most painful but kind of cool experience because like, I don't drink margaritas. I'm a systems person. The creative isn't my field. But it was fun because, like, there were people who were just amazing. Like, there was a woman at our table who was a project manager, or I think, and she had been a bartender. She was like, not a problem. I've got this. And somebody else could draw. And I was like, oh, I can write really neatly.
Well, and I think it's interesting because in that as you explained it to me when you got back, you talked about how, like, there was one person who was sort of an implementer, the person who they were a project manager, they were a bartender, they implemented it. There was, the person who was the creative. They could draw, they could come up with some ideas. And I'm sure, now you didn't talk about yourself, but I'm sure you were the person where that was like, okay, well, let's do this first, and then let's do this second, and then let's do this third, I
was definitely watching the time. I'm like, oh my God, all these people around us are like getting done. Guys, we have nothing done. We need to move forward. We need to stop talking and start moving forward and do something.
But the bonding and rapport, the getting to know other people in the industry, it makes you more comfortable. So like the next night when you went to the next event, or when you showed up in the morning to breakfast, you saw the person that was in your group, and you were like, hey, how you doing? Then sat down, had breakfast, talk more, learn more from them. Right.
And it's important to keep the conversation going. I got an email from somebody this week who I met at the conference, and she said, I sat through your workshop. I didn't have a chance to talk to you. Could you send me your slides? Could we talk some more? It doesn't end. Education and building and networking doesn't end when you leave and get on the plane. And so I come out with a million ideas. You come out with a million ideas. You can't execute them all at once. But if you keep that door open, you're always going to have those contacts and connections. One of the other conferences we went to, and I took some of our female team members, was just here in Boston. It was a local one for another industry organization, and it was, again, 150, 200 women in construction in the new Boston area. And we went to the Encore Hotel and Casino in Boston, and the CEO talked to us. We weren't talking about construction. We were talking about business development and leadership, and specifically, how do we as women portray our skill level in male-dominated industries and continue to build ourselves up in an authentic way and build up the next generation of people behind us.
Yeah, that was the Professional Remodeling Organization's New England chapters, Women in Residential Remodeling Summit up here in Massachusetts. And that's the thing. I think that if you're a female business owner, or if you work in a business and you don't want to connect with other people, I think a lot of times, and it doesn't necessarily have to be the construction industry, but I think connecting with other business owners that are female help you out, right?
Yeah.
You're in another group locally that is South Shore Women's Business Network, which is a lot of women who own or operate their own businesses locally who, again, just share ideas and are able to talk to each other about those things.
We're going through similar things maybe at different phases of our lives, and having people who understand you and your position and the stresses on you can help guide you in a way that sometimes other people can't. As you move from your brand new mom phase into you're a mom with kids who have to go to 7 sports or 7 activities, and you're also trying to run a business and manage and lead people, and then into the phase where you've got high school kids, but you also have aging parents, but you're trying to build a business, pay bills, manage, lead, mentor people. Having other people who have been there, who are doing it, who can relate to you is really helpful and important, because sometimes they can put a mirror up to you and what you're doing and give you ideas that sometimes your other counterparts or your other friends can't, because yes, they're moms, but they don't have the business aspect, or yes, they have the business aspect, but they don't have kids or parents.
And the percentage, the amount of women-owned businesses in the United States has grown 114% since the late 90s. 42% of all businesses in the United States are owned by women. And through the pandemic, we saw that grow even more and more and more. Male-owned businesses are on the decline. Women-owned businesses are on the incline. The average age, and I thought this was interesting when I was looking this up, the average age of a woman entrepreneur, a woman who owns a business, is 43 years old. So you think about a 43-year-old woman, they're generally moms, married for a while,
or divorced,
have a few kids. So for me, it's interesting. It's the sort of like end of Generation X, start of millennial sort of age right there. It's interesting to see in the country how much female-owned businesses are becoming more and more prominent.
Yeah, and I think that conferences and groups that cater to women are important because of the immense load that we're trying to balance. I speak and work with a lot of women who just have guilt at home. They've guilt at work. I'm that person. I never feel like I'm doing enough for anybody. And sometimes knowing you're not alone is really helpful in sharing tactics and managing those emotions.
And I think you have an advantage too over, we're husband and wife, we work together. There isn't, I think for a lot of women, there's sometimes that fight. If you don't work with your husband, there's a difference, understanding what it takes to own and operate a business.
Yeah. Right now in the mastermind I facilitate in the My Wisdom board, I'm the only one who works with my spouse. Everybody else is either divorced, single, or their spouse is not part of the business. They have their own business or they have their own careers.
So going back to the Women in Residential and Commercial Construction conference, they do this every year. This was their 9th year.
Yep.
So their 10th year is coming up here in 2025. You can actually check them out. They have a website, womensconstructionconference.com. That's where you'll find, which I think comes out very soon, this year's information, if it's not already out.
I believe it's going to be in Texas this year.
Yeah, so it'll be like, again, great conference, a great place for if you're in the construction industry. And it's not just, and I should go back to say this, it's not just for business owners, Allison.
No, I thought it was going to be business owners. There were so many employees and people who are looking to make transitions.
Key managers were there.
Key managers, designers.
Yeah.
They really try to focus about having it be connecting change makers. Whatever your position is, connecting those change makers and people who want to be those change makers.
And I think that we talked about this at the very beginning of the show about, feeling like we were a small company in a big giant sea of these huge companies. Even at that, the smallest of companies can get a lot out of something. Like you may go and talk to like one of those giant, home builders that build, 700 neighborhoods a week and do like 200 million a year. And us, that's a smaller company that only does a few million a year. Like those are like being able to connect with those kind of people is pretty good there.
Yeah, I literally had some people who were a single person company, all the way up to people who had 200 or 300 employees. So in team members. So don't be intimidated by size or scope or have that imposter syndrome. It's important just to go and put yourself out there and take away what is valuable to you and your business at this point.
So check it out, womensconstructionconference.com. That's pro remodeler, pro builder. If you're interested, if you work in that industry and you'd like to check it out. And if you don't, get a chance to find locally, if you can find a women's networking group, there are a lot of them that are out there.
There's a lot of women's networking groups. In the last 20 years, it's become so popular. If you're in the Boston or New England area, there's the Boston Business Women's Network. There's the South Shore Conference for Women. There's the whole line of conferences for women in Massachusetts.
So definitely get a chance to check it out. But I thought it was really great, Allison. Congratulations. Great job speaking there. Phoenix, love Phoenix. It's a beautiful city.
Thank you for coming and being my support staff and swimming in the pool.
I was very nice to go as your arm candy. And I like literally when you were giving your speech, I was swimming in the pool with a beer, hanging out.
Well, that's not true. I also locked you in the hotel room and gave you things to work on for your owner things.
Yes.
It was you had white space time.
I did sit on my laptop and do a lot of white space work while I was there, but it was fun to go. Maybe I'll do, if you go, I'll go again and I'll just sit there and do work and enjoy wherever it's at. Austin, Texas, I think.
And you drove me around.
And I did. I drove you around. But no, that's great. Talk to us, Allison. What are you reading this week?
So I just finished rereading, listening to on Audible, Who Moved My Cheese by Spencer Johnson. As I think we've talked about it before, it's a motivational parable that uses the analogy of mice and people to illustrate the importance of adapting to change. Cheese represents something that's important to you in life, such as a job, relationship, or a situation. And the maze represents the environment in which you search for the cheese and how the mice quickly adapt to the change in the maze, but sometimes the little people cling to their old ways in a struggle to adapt. We're going to talk more about this in an upcoming episode because during our team workshop at our annual team meeting, we as a team talked about all of this. So I kind of want to share some of the things we talked about as a team. And I am very excited that I've been asked in the spring to do this workshop with some women in business as well. Super
quick, easy listen to, if you will, on audible.com. I think we go through a phase. I think maybe not every year, maybe it's like every 3 years. Like I feel like we go back and listen to this book, and it just to remind us.
Yeah, because we get comfortable sometimes.
Yeah, so it's a great book to go back and check out. Who Moved My Cheese? You can listen to it on audible.com. You can get a free 30 days of Audible on us. Just visit audibletrial.com/bizmarried. That's audibletrial.com/bizmarried, B-I-Z married. You get a free 30 days of Audible. You can listen to Who Moved My Cheese or anything else. Check that out. Also, check us out online, marriedwithabusiness.net. That's our website. You can go on there, learn more about who we are, what we do. Talk to us about, speaking. We have some information you can get on there. Great place to check out some information about us. Check that out. You can also find us on social media at BizMarried on Instagram. We're on Facebook. Look for us on there. And our goal of the show, Allison, it is and will continue to be, we're a married couple. We go through a lot together as a married couple that own and operate a business together. Ups and downs, highs and lows. is to kind of share our stories with people.
Yeah, every day is different when you work together as a couple and you're balancing work and family and your team.
And I think we're getting better at it.
Every day.
Every day we get better at it.
It's a new year. It's a new day.
Yeah.
Try again tomorrow.
Try again tomorrow. You have a bad day today. You just get up and do it again tomorrow. So thanks everybody for listening. We really appreciate it. Look for us online. Don't forget, tell people about us too if you get a chance. Listen, like, share, all of that fun stuff. And remember, not only is it important to focus on your business, but also your marriage, because we're married with a business.